All right. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here for our artist talk with Indi. So excited to, and yes, Kimberly Ann, I'll change your name. Um, so excited to have, Indi here and here in the in the space. I've been living with her work now for what, a week and a half, something like that, and it makes me smile. And a couple of people, my assistant came in yesterday, Karis, and she's like, oh my God, it's so bright and cheerful, and everybody that comes in
Ah,
is just
nice.
always smiling. So yeah, it's a wonderful exhibition. So, I Shoebox is an alternative art space. I live at the brewery near downtown LA. It's an art community, and I live and work here. My bed's back there, so and my studio's here. And so I had an extra space in my loft, and so I turned it into a gallery. And it's an alternative space where artists have exhibitions. And Kathy had one, I think the last one, and then Monica was before her, and yeah, it's been really wonderful to see what artists have put together and how their work or how they create, a cohesive body of work for a show and tell their story, and it's a powerful thing. So yeah, with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Indy. She has a slide presentation. She's going to talk all about her work, and I can't wait to like get into the depth of it because there's a lot more that I don't know. Like when we were installing, she had told me that, and she'll probably talk about this too, that each piece is from a tarot card. And I'm like, I didn't know that. And I mean, how cool is that? So I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah.
So I will pass it over to you, Indy.
Great. Thanks so much,
You're
Christine.
welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Yay. Nice to see so many familiar faces and some new faces too. And so I do have a slide presentation I'm going to do. And what we'll do is if you have any questions, hold them up until the end, and then I'll have plenty of time at the end. I can answer whatever questions you have. But, if it's a burning question and you just can't wait or you're worried about forgetting, drop it into the chat and then we can check that at the end also. Okay. So yeah, so I'll go ahead and get started and share my screen, and the technology will hopefully be cooperative and work. All right. Here we go. Okay, so Portals to Elsewhere is the name of the show, Dream Creatures and the Art of Remembering. And this presentation on today, I'm going to take you a little bit behind the scenes of both me and my art path so that you get a full picture of how this show came about and what the foundations were from it. So I'll take you on a little history tour of Indi and her art path. And to get started, I can talk about what makes up my art. And from the beginning, it was always about color and layers and layers and layers and layers, and about intuitive painting. And then I also have this whole background of assemblage art and mixed media art. So I'm going to talk about that. And I started out a little bit later in life, although now that I'm so much older, I'm like, oh, I wasn't that old. But I started in my early 30s. I didn't do art when I was younger, although I always wanted to. And how I got started was I took a couple watercolor classes. And the first one was very much like you have a photo and it's photorealism and you learn to paint exactly what's in the photo. And that was really hard for me, but I learned so many skills in that class. The second watercolor class I took right after that was a completely different teacher. And she was just like, be yourself, express yourself in whatever way. There was no structure. It was just this free form. And I was like, ah. So that was my first introduction to kind of just letting go and playing with paint, which was really fun. And it was during that class, this photo here, I don't know if you can recognize what it is, but it's an armchair and it's in watercolors. And in that class, everybody in the class was retired except me. And there was an older gentleman in the class that said, I really don't think this is the right area for you, the right space for you. And of course, I immediately took that as like, oh, I shouldn't be an artist. He's telling me that I'm a terrible artist. And he's like, no, 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 no. You should not be working in watercolor. You really like bold colors. You need to do acrylic or oil. And I was like, oh, thank you. Okay, good to know. So That was really, but you can see from the very beginning, I mean, this is the basis of, I just love color so much. And the colors really inform my paintings. And the figures or whatever comes out comes from the colors. And that's been foundational from the very beginning. So I also when I did finally get started in acrylics, I do paint in acrylics. I chose that over oil, just based on the first classes I found online back in the days when online classes were a new thing. And I live in the rural part of California in Sutter Creek. I'm about an hour southeast of Sacramento, up in the foothills in the Gold Rush part of California. And it's a small rural area. My town where I live now has 3,000 people. So it's just really, there's not a lot of opportunity. So I loved the internet and took a lot of classes online. And so I got introduced to intuitive painting pretty early on. There, I had two teachers, Connie Solera and Chris Seidel, and both of them, one is in Arizona, one is in California. And they are all about listening to your inner voices or voice to paint and not about coming with preconceived ideas. And this, so like from the get-go, I was really, instead of copying things or learning technique, it was more about just expressing yourself and expressing your emotions and paying attention to your emotions, what thoughts are going through your head while you're painting, and being really just really engaged with the whole process. And it was about process, not product. And so that's how I came into painting. And I love acrylics because I can do thick layers or I can make it wet and runny. And you can see in these four paintings, these are from my early days when I was painting. I just love the drips. I love the drips cascading down, and I would use a spray bottle to get that effect. But even early on, I would let the figures emerge from my paintings. And so you can see that I have fantastical creatures as a theme pretty early on in my work. And so I've let that guide me. And I really, looking back now, I realize that that's what I really love doing is these creatures and letting them inform me who wants to show up on the canvas. So that is how I got started, and it continues and definitely is a foundation for this show that I did at Shoebox. I also have dabbled in alternative mixed media type of art, and I created for a while. I haven't lately, but book art from books. I would get old books that people want to throw away. Nobody wants to read them. They're falling apart, or they're just not a subject matter that thrift stores don't even want them. So I would collect them and turn them into art. So I have this real love of tangible, making art with my hands and the tangible. It's a whole different experience than painting. I feel like it's like a different part of my creative self and my brain. And I can get really lost. In painting, I feel like there's always this voice saying, well, what's it going to look like? What's it going to be? What's it going to end up as? Where with the mixed media pieces, I just play. And I don't, it feels more crafty, I guess, in a way, and that this is for me. And I'm not worried about somebody seeing it or buying it. But then eventually I do finish them and make them, I've had them in galleries and things. So they do become works of art on their own, but the process is so different. So the first book that I ever did was called The Book of Life. And it was in honor of my mom. My mom volunteered at hospice for 10 years. She moved up to where I live. She worked in their offices and was dedicated to that organization. And then unfortunately, she got sick and passed away, but hospice was there for her at the end of her life, which I was just so grateful for. And they have an art fundraiser every year, a big event. And they asked if I would donate a piece in her memory. And I was like, of course I will. And I don't even know where the idea came from. I'd never done anything like this. I like, oh, I'm going to make a book, an altered book. I must have seen it somewhere online. I don't know. And so I Googled it and I learned and I watched the videos and found the websites and I just figured out how to do it. And that is a theme also in my art over the years that I'll just figure it out. I'm that kind of personality. I don't know. Well, the answer's out there somewhere. Let's go. I have no fear of leaping, as you'll see. So this was the first book that I did. And then another one I just wanted to share with you. This is one of my favorites. I made it to look like a suitcase. And it's a little alien traveler who's coming to Earth to figure out how to travel and be a tourist on Earth. So all the little pieces I found and put together and created, and I had a lot of fun with that one. And I myself love to travel. It is part of my identity, I think. I just love being in a space where I don't know the language, the culture. I'm more engaged, more alive, more awake. And so this book was absolutely one of my favorites because it was very much me. I also did some other assemblage art. I have this whole collection of old gift boxes that things these days come in these really beautiful boxes, and I cannot throw them away. They're just so nice. And so I turned them into art, and I did a whole series of little desk altars with little creatures in them. And then I did the fairy houses, which you see on the right, a whole series of fairy houses. And then I did this one with Mary and then Alien. I love themes around like anything woo-woo and galactic and mixing up religion and spirituality. And these are a lot of themes in my work. So you can see a couple pieces there. So I was doing all of that art while I was raising my son and working a full-time job. And I worked in the field of early childhood education and child abuse prevention, and also had quite a few years dedicated to working around the themes of childhood trauma and building resilience community at a community level. So it was a very fulfilling job, and I learned so much about my community and being of service to others. But I always knew deep down I wanted to be making art. And so there had always been, like, since my son was born, how do I segue into art? So as a career. And I just assumed because I have so much experience teaching and training and being in training sessions and being a presenter through my job that I'm like, oh, I will teach art as part of um, that path. Once, so I left my job, my full-time job, about 3.5 years ago, and I've done all kinds of things after I left. So here are some examples I wanted to just share with you. I created up in the top corner, The Spirit of Creativity was an ebook I created. It took you on this whole path of like learning about your own creativity, basically. At the bottom left corner, I was invited to do presentations around creativity. I got to go to Sacramento and do one for a statewide childcare network. So that was, I got all these people, all these adults in the room, not adults that work with kids directly, but just sit in offices. I got them to tap into their own creative abilities, which of course many people are like, oh, I'm not creative. I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I created workshops around that. And I did an online class I created called The Portal to Creativity. In the top corner, I got the chance to paint a mural for one of the family agencies that's in our county. They hired me to do that, which was so affirming after leaving my job to get hired back by the folks I work with to make a mural in their offices. And then I also created in-person workshops of all kinds. If I was interested in it, I created a workshop around it. And so it was about art and introspection. I love diving into who we are, why are we here, what are our gifts, what are our blocks, how do we move about in the world? I love that. So I want that. I always wanted that to be the theme of what I do in my work, especially around art. So I created a workshop around that. I love tarot and astrology, and I created workshops on that. Art journaling. I love art journaling. That for me is my private way of expressing myself. It's just for me. And then another one is called Play with Paint, which built on my whole intuitive painting background. So I did all of these here locally, and it was really fun. And I did it for a couple of years, all of this work. And after a couple of years, I realized my art is still on the side. It's still not, I still wasn't making time to make art as much as I wanted to. And I was getting frustrated. And so I took this huge leap about a year ago and decided, okay, I'm going to dip into my savings and I'm going to make art full time. So I stopped doing all of these things and started painting. And I had a goal, I had all kinds of goals for the year, like a painting a week, and I was going to find an art residency and I'm going to join a group that I can learn more about making art. So I had all these plans, and that's what led me to where we are now, this show. So, uh, my dream to do an art residency came true, and I got to go last September to San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. It's a very well-known city for art and galleries and artists, and a lot of retired folks from the United States live there. But none of those things drew me. What drew me was the residency that I found. And there's a woman that runs it. Her name is Jessica Guerra. She's Mexican and lived in the United States for about 20 years. And she had created this artist residency program, which to me felt really unique because she really encouraged the artists to get engaged at a community level in the town. And so we were able to take classes with local artists. Some of them spoke English, some of them did not. We had Mexican families and adults in the classes. It wasn't just expats or tourists in the classes. And it just felt like her dream of having folks engage and connect this way was just, it was so in line with where I was. I really, really appreciated everything that she put into this program. So one of my classes was cartoneria, which is a Mexican style of paper mache. And I got to take a class with Diego Castaneda. You can see his picture there, and that's Jessica up in the top. And so paper mache is it's cardboard, paper, masking tape, and the glue is made out of flour and water. That's it. So out of those four things, you can create all these amazing creatures. And it's what he was teaching us is we can make whatever we wanted, but the history and foundation of cartoneria is affordable and accessible for anybody as an art form. And there's often it's connected to many religious traditions and cultural traditions in Mexico. So I'm not Mexican, but I wanted to learn more about that, and I really dove into it. And you can see my first project was a mobile of something called an alebrije, which is these fantastical creatures. There's a man, Pedro Linares, and in the early 1900s, he had a dream. And he came up in his dream, that was this whole idea. The name was given to him, alebrije. It was a brand new word. And the concept of these fantastical creatures that are combinations of different animals in these brightly painted, detailed colors. And so that was what I wanted to make. And you can see in the bottom right corner what mine turned out to be, kind of based on this idea while I was in Mexico, embracing that art form. And so, yeah, I got to learn from Diego how to do all the these different parts of the adding the paper for the wings and the texture and doing the face with the cat. And he helped me a lot with that face, let me just say. So I would give him a lot of credit. But I fell in love with San Miguel de Allende. I didn't think that I would. I had no idea. The town is amazing. Mexico is amazing. And I'm having a love affair with Mexico. And I got to go back a second time, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So I came home though, and I continued working on my paintings. And this was in last year in the fall. And I knew I had 6 canvases and I wanted to do a series of some kind. There's a different group that I'm part of called Startup. And there was going to be a show in December in Palm Springs that I got to be part of. And I thought, oh, well, some of these paintings can maybe be for that. That didn't work out. I submitted some different paintings. But you can see how, my paintings evolve from different layers and layers, and I sketch out things based on what I see in the shapes and patterns of those layers. Like the bottom there, you can see a raven with a hat, but then it disappears. I just keep adding layers and things keep evolving in my paintings until they become what they want to become. And so a painting can take months, it can take weeks, it can take a day, depending on the energy behind each painting. But I really let the painting speak to me and I try to listen to what the painting wants to be. At some point, that raven got covered up. I don't even know which painting it became. Sometimes I take photos and then I still can't remember which was which. So, but it was at the end of December that through this show in Palm Springs, I got to meet Christine. Yay! And I learned all about Shoebox and everything that she offers through Shoebox. And I saw that one of the things that is part of being Shoebox is to have a solo show. And so around Christmas time, I was like, I don't even know. I don't have any ideas for a solo show. I don't know. And then literally, like within 2 days, I had the whole concept and show download. It was like a download. That's the only way I can explain it or describe it. And so Portals to Elsewhere, not the name yet, but the whole idea came to me. And so I was like, oh, apparently I am signing up and I'm going to do this. So no one was more surprised than me. So the entire show arrives intact. It was going to be portraits and the sculptures. I knew I'd only made one, but I knew I was going to make more. I wanted it to be immersive and interactive, and I wanted it to be an invitation to remember our relationship with the living and more than human world that everything is alive in my perspective and my view, my worldview, and that I want us as humans to remember that interconnection we have with all living things, and that the humans are not at the center. So I knew that was going to be the theme of the show. I knew it would tap into imagination, curiosity, and wonder. These are all words that have inspired and informed my life, and I knew I wanted to bring that into the show. And especially during these times, I knew that my show needed to remind us that we need to remember joy, and that that is a form of resistance, especially in times that are so horrific, because the powers that be don't want us to be joyful. And so to be joyful and to remember that life is full of wonder and curiosity and tap into our imagination, this is actually resisting um, that uh, the terror of the times. So, and not just now, throughout history. So I wanted to share all of those things in my show. So the first thing that I jumped into, aside from the paintings, I kept working on those 6 blue paintings. I wanted to make another paper mache sculpture. And I don't remember when or how, but I had this moment. I don't remember if it was a dream, a vision, if it was a memory. Something came into my head at some point that I've always kept with me for a while now. And I was on a hike with a friend walking through the woods. And coming the other direction on the path were 2 very large, tall, long-legged birds, also on a hike. And they were chatting with each other, and I was chatting with my friend, and we greeted each other and kept going. And then at the end of the hike, we went somewhere like, a pub or a cafe to have something to drink. And the birds were there having a drink also. And it was just this like, oh, this is our future. This is how things used to be. This is an ancient memory that I'm remembering, or this is a premonition for the future, but this is how we can interact with the natural world if we so choose. And so that whole download that I had became the inspiration for the second paper mache piece I did, which is a very large bird. And you can see some of the process photos here. I had no idea how to do it. I'd only made the one piece with Diego in Mexico. But again, I got online, I looked up things, I just figured it out. And I actually made the legs first because that's what I saw in my mind's eye first, were the legs. And I'm like, I'll figure it out from there. I'm going to make the legs. And that's what I did. So one thing that was a little bit different about this piece was inside the body of the bird, I had this bag of plastic bags that nobody would recycle for me. And so I put the bags in the bird because I was like, well, if I can't recycle them, it's going to become art, because I hate waste and I'm very concerned about the environment. And so I'm like, well, this is one way to do it. At some point, hopefully by the time this bird decomposes, they will have ways to recycle and do something with the plastic. So that's my vision. So I got this going on this bird. And then I had the spider idea come to me. And again, my ideas just, I don't know where they come from. I pay attention though. I keep a journal. And I had this vision of the spider, and I don't know if you're familiar with Louise Bourgeois and her large maman spiders. I think there's 7 or 8 around the world. And I lived in Tokyo for a couple of years in my early 20s, and I remember seeing hers. I went back in 2016, and I got to see the one in Tokyo, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. So powerful to stand under that spider. So I wanted to have that same experience as part of my show. So I started working on a spider. It started growing and took up the entire room in my house that is my studio. And I had to then later figure out how to get it out of my house. I thought I would make it so the legs could come apart and detachable for easier transport, but engineering wise, I didn't know what I was doing. So I had to just attach everything, and it became rather large and one big piece. So I was sharing with a friend about the spider, and she is my witchy woo sister, and she's like, oh, no, 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 I just read something about spiders. Now I know spiders for me in a lot of northern United States, and for native tribes, that the spider represents the web of life. She is the creator of the universe, and that like everything in that web is connected, as we are all connected to everything. And this is an indigenous belief. And so I knew that and carried that in my heart. And I was excited to share that. But then she was on her phone looking something up. She's like, oh, spiders represent fear of our life's purpose. So if you're afraid of spiders, maybe you're afraid of finding your life's purpose. I was like, what? And, we went off on some tangent and started talking about that. And unfortunately, I never found out where she found that information, or I can't quote it or use it as a resource, but it really inspired me even more to be like, okay, the spider's got to be big, it's got to be hanging, somebody's got to have the chance to sit under it, like when I walked under that Maman spider in Tokyo. So that was where the spider came from. Then, before I could go any further, I had the chance to go back to Mexico for another month at the same residency and create some more art. And I knew that the art I created in Mexico this time would be for this show, so it was very intentional. I went to the art store and bought all Mexican acrylic brand, which has a very different consistency and than I was used to, and it took some getting used to. But I also knew that I wanted to create on just raw canvas, not stretch canvas, because it would roll up and go into my suitcase. But I'd also seen this somewhere else. Some other artists had done it and was inspired. So that's what I did. I got some canvas, cut it out into long rectangles, and Jessica, the woman who runs the residency, is also like me, really into tarot cards and oracle cards. And she's like, "Oh, I have this animal deck, and I know that's the theme of your show." She's like, "Do you want to borrow them while you're here?" I was like, "Of course I do." So I decided I wanted the animals to tell me who wanted to be in the show. So I pulled three cards from the deck for my three pieces of canvas, and this is who showed up: a giraffe, a turtle, and the peacock. And learning to work with the paint, these are those three. So eventually I'll show you. I came up with stories, if you haven't seen the show yet, for each of the characters in the show, each of the paintings, and those cards help inform these three characters and their stories. And then the bear. So I came back from Mexico knowing I had to make this bear, having no idea even how to do it. I did make another little creature while I was in Mexico. Also, I took another class with Diego and made an ajolotl, which is a little pink amphibian that's native to Mexico City area. And I forgot to include a picture in the slideshow, but that I made all that while I was there. And then I came home knowing, okay, I'm going to make this bear because I've always had a connection to bears. I'm very spiritual, very woo-woo. Bear is for me very special. And Bear wanted to be in the show with me. And I remember seeing somewhere, again, a downloaded idea, I have no idea where it came from. Marina Abramovich she's an artist. She had a show in New York at MoMA in New York City where she just sat in a chair, on a table, empty chair. People could come and sit across from her in silence. And it was a very powerful, moving exchange. I don't know if you've ever done that exercise of just sitting and staring at somebody for 3 minutes without talking. It is so powerful. So I wanted to recreate that experience, and this time with a bear. And so you can see in the pictures here, masking tape, cardboard, and this is before I started adding the paper layers. And I used newspaper and brown craft paper as the layers. You tear them into strips and then you glue them on with the flour paste, the flour water paste. And so I had to figure out, I looked up all kinds of things trying to find, okay, you do a silhouette and then you add like the armature around it. And this is me trying to figure out. It's a little bit messy, but like I said, I just dive in and I'll figure it out as I go. And that's what I did. And then three more paintings that are part of the show. I had three big canvases and I knew they were going to be somehow a series together, those three. Like everything was kind of in groups, it felt like, as part of the bigger series. So I decided for these three, I would pull my own tarot cards and let the theme of the card inform the painting. Not necessarily that who showed up, but the theme of what they were going to represent. So you can see I pulled the Four of Swords, which is all about rest and restoration and recovery. You can see the person lying down there on the card. And then I pulled happiness, the Ten of Cups, which is all about happiness, belonging, community, joy. It's like you've hit this pinnacle of like belonging and feeling included and loved everywhere you go. And so that was the theme for one of the paintings. And then the last one I pulled is the Fool, which is the first card in the deck. And that's all about new beginnings, being a free spirit, the innocence of not knowing what lies ahead of you, but taking that leap and going for it. And this card, the Fool, has been a theme. It's come up many, many times in the past few years since I left my job. And so it just feels like that was really magical that I pulled that and it got to be part of the show because I didn't choose intentionally. I just pulled cards. So you can see then these paintings then represent those. Now that you know the card, maybe you can see the theme of the painting. So yeah, so that is an introduction to some of the folks there. Here, if you haven't been to the space yet, here's some photos of the paintings in the show. And you can see they all have names at some point. Uh, Again, I don't know even how, I just was like, okay, everybody needs a name. Everybody's got a backstory. Let's tell their stories. I felt like I was giving them a show. It wasn't my show, it was their show. Like this is their chance to communicate to you about them. And so I wanted to be that facilitator. And that's what it felt like as I was putting this all together. So each of the characters has a story that goes with it. And I've got that posted under each painting and along the walls for the sculptural pieces. So you can see the spider and the bird. And I forgot to include some of the other folks that are in the show. Here are some folks interacting with the bear. I set it up so that there were two chairs, no table, but just two chairs. So you could have a moment with the bear and either talk to the bear or listen to the bear or just sit quietly, depending on what your preference was. So it was nice to see people engaging with that during the opening reception. I got a chance to sit there also for a moment, which is lovely. Thank whoever took that photo. I'm so grateful. Thank you. It's really good. Was that you, Christine? I wondered if that was you. Thank you. And then also, it was so fun to watch people sit under the spider. Kathy, you were one of them, the brave ones. Yay. And my brother, that was my brother. He's on the left there. He sat under the spider. And so that was really fun. And somebody pointed out to me, this is one of the most moving parts of the opening reception. Somebody I've known a really long time. I had a bigger, deeper conversation with him than I ever have in all the years of knowing him. He's my cousin's husband. And he was so vocal about everything that the show meant to him. And he looked over, and we looked over at Aleka, who's in the middle photo there. At one point, she was looking up and laughing and so happy. And he's like, "You created that moment. You created that." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, wow. This guy that doesn't talk about art, or he's an IT guy, he's a total technology guy, that he saw that and recognized that and said that back to me was just a really beautiful moment." So I had some really nice comments during the opening reception, but that one really stuck. The last piece I want to share with you from the show is called the Wonderwell. And in a lot of the paintings, there is this golden orb that is part of the painting. Different characters are holding it. One of the cartoneria, the paper mache sculptures is holding one. And I knew I wanted to create like a little altar to this orb, which to me doesn't have a specific meaning, but it is everything that is the unknown that we can create from our imagination. I guess that's what, if I had to say it represented something, that's what I would say. But it's also up for interpretation depending on your own interaction with it. I figured out how to put a light inside of it so it like lit up. And the idea was that this is like a wishing well, but it's about what's your vision or dream for a better world for all of us, and that you can interact in that way with the show, because that's really the theme of the show is how can we create a new and better future that serves all of us in great diversity and with all the living beings and not just a narrow focus. And so we cannot do it alone. And I really strongly believe that each of us hold a piece to this future vision that we want. And we all have to find our piece and contribute it. And that's what brings about the change that we want to see. So this is an opportunity at the show. There's paper and pens, and there's a silver handle you can lift up. There's a little mailbox slot, and you can fill out a piece of paper. And what's your piece? What's the one thing for you? If you chose one thing to really focus on that you would like to see in a world that's better for all of us. So I'm going to take that moment right now. You don't have to write it down. You can if you have a piece of paper or pen near you, or you can just, type it on your phone or just think about it. But I'm just going to be quiet for a minute, and I would love for you to think about what's your piece? What's your one piece of a vision for a better world that you would like to contribute? So I'm going to stop talking for 1 minute and let you just think about it. if you'd like, I invite you to put it in chat. You do not have to, absolutely not at all. But if you feel comfortable and would like to share your piece, that would be great. And we can take a look at those at the end of the call. All righty. So many people that I am so grateful for this opportunity. Christine, first and foremost, thank you so much for having this opportunity available for artists. It's just, I can't tell you how much it means to me. I've learned so much from you. I continue to learn so much from you, and having this show there. Shoebox is such an amazing collaborative of artists. And I know it's your project, but the people you bring in, the artists you bring in, Christine, are amazing. And I'm so grateful to have met so many amazing women, some of you on this call. And to me, that is just the essence of being an artist alone in my studio is great, but it's without the community, it's not the same. And so I so appreciate being part of this community that you've created, Christine. Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome.
And last, here's my contact information. It's also in the chat. You can find it there, my website and my Instagram and my email. And then also twice a month, I do send out an email just with updates, what I'm up to, new projects, where I will be showing my art, where I talk about a lot of these themes. So if you're interested, you can go to my website, and on just about any page on my website, you will find, if you look for this deer with the orb, that's where the link is to sign up for the email. So yeah, that is it. And I will keep from that and stop
Wonderful.
sharing.
Thank you so, so much, Indy.
Yes.
Great to learn so much more about your work, about who you are, where you came from, the work that you've done before. Oh my gosh, those books are brilliant. I
Oh,
mean, all of
thanks.
your work is brilliant. So
Thank
it was cool to see your thought process,
you.
throughout. So thank you, thank you. Are there questions for Indy? You know you have them.
What is something that you want to do next? What is on your horizon?
Oh, I want to move. And that is directly related to my art, actually, because I live in a small town. And though there are a lot of artists up here, my art does not fit in here. And art is not appreciated in the same way in this small town. I just have an example of a story. There was an event. It was a fundraising event for somebody in the community who was very sick, and it was a beautiful, beautiful event. And they had an auction to raise money for her. They had art and they had desserts. And in this community, people were buying desserts for $400 and $500. And the art auction, they had to keep lowering the prices because nobody was bidding on the art. It was so incredibly
Oh,
frustrating as an artist, and seeing all these other artists who donated pieces to have that be the reality. And I get it. And it's fine. That is this community. And I appreciate and love everybody. But it's time for me to move somewhere where there is more art and that there's a different appreciation of art, especially my weirdo art that doesn't always match your couch and blend in. So that is my goal by the end of this year, to move somewhere else. So I will be working on
yay.
that.
Lynn.
Um, you have these beautiful stories about the creatures that you paint, and I wonder, do you, because you were saying that the you let the creature come through that you that wish to do this, do their stories come through at this time, or do they tell you their stories after the work is completed?
That's a great question. I would say that for this show, the stories came after, although with the tarot cards, there was a hint of maybe what they were about, but not the actual
Mm.
stories. There was an energy about them, I would say. And then I intentionally spent some time sitting with them and learning their stories and finding out what they were about. And I haven't done that previously with my art. If there are stories, I haven't explored it, but I think that would be really interesting to do with past work and future work to see what the paintings have to say about themselves. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yeah. I like that thing.
Yep, yep. Thanks, Lynn. Valerie.
Yeah, so it's like I come from this background, I'm kind of stuck up, but as artists, but I'm so like, how do you maintain like such a fresh, positive spirit?
Hmm. Wow.
It's very special.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think I have a really very large galactic worldview of why we're here as humans. And that helps me not get bogged down by the mundane part of life, but also the horrors of life, of living on this planet. There's a lot of travesty and trauma that has been going on for thousands of years, right? So I think by having that ability to step back and remember that I'm a tiny little blip on the radar of life and in this life, let alone all of life, since time immortal, that helps, I think. And it's also part of my nature. I've always been that one that's going to see the silver lining. My friends get a little bothered by it sometimes. They're like, hey, no, I just want to complain at this moment. I'm like, okay, sorry, yeah, go ahead. Because I can take it and say, well, yeah, but what about blah, blah, blah? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, great, backing off, sorry. I have a friend who's very dark and gothy, and she's like, you're the sparkle goth. I'm like, yes, I'm the sparkle goth. So it is just part of who I am.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Valerie.
Great.
Dorette.
Hi, Indy. Thank you for your presentation. It was excellent. It was good to follow your journey, and I
Aw.
love that emphasis on listening to your inner voice. That's how I discovered I could paint.
Aw, lovely. Oh,
Yeah. So my question is, where do you see the creatures going next? Do you see?
oh.
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot more sculptural creatures in my future.
Mhm.
I will probably keep painting them. I assume I will keep painting them, but I really feel like I want to get better at making the creatures and learning the technique and feeling less random and less like, oh, figure it out, but actually having some skills behind
Skills,
it. Yeah. So I feel like making big ones is going to be part of it. To be honest, I have this dream of I see videos all the time now on my feed because the algorithm feeds what follow.
Right,
I
right.
would love to create creatures and be in a parade
Mhm.
and regularly because I love dressing up. Halloween is my favorite holiday of the year. I always create a fun costume, even when nobody else will dress up when I have my day job. Nobody would dress up. I'd be like, I'm dressing up. And so to be able to combine all those things to make a creature puppet-like or on a trailer, I don't know what, and then have a costume and I could be part of it and part of a parade. I mean, if I could do that for the rest of my life, golden. So yeah, I think that's my future with the paper mache creatures for sure. There is definitely a future. Yeah.
I will have to let you know when it comes up. Somebody here at the brewery, they did it a couple months ago. They had a puppet making workshop. And
Ugh.
yes. And I think it was like 2 weekends in a row or something. And
Okay.
then afterwards they paraded like the around the streets in our neighborhood. And
Ugh.
I didn't know about it. And so I only saw a video later and I'm like, it is so cool. I'll have to send
Oh,
it to you.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
cool.
Ah,
Um,
wonderful.
yeah,
Yes, thank
yeah,
you. Yeah, when I saw videos of the art parade in LA this year, I was so
yeah.
jealous. Like I wanted to be part of that. So I know it's something that's calling me for my future.
Yep, yep.
Yes,
And
Monica. Any excuse for a costume. Oh my gosh, totally.
yeah, you and Monica
Yep.
should collaborate.
Oh my
Yes.
God, I love that.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I could only imagine what you would come up with.
Yay. Yay.
Yep. I also mentioned, well, I mean, I suggested that Indy should make a book
Yes, you
telling the
did.
stories of these animals. And, especially, I mean, she has all the writing already and then just adding to it. I mean, it could even be a children's book or something. I mean, they're amazing. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I love that idea. And I have that on my notes that I've like future ideas. I'm like, yes, thank you for reminding me.
yep,
That is definitely something I could do. Thanks,
yep,
Lynn. Yeah, the
exactly.
book. Yeah, you weren't the only one, Christine. Several other people during the opening reception are like, so you're going to make a book, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, I guess I am. Yeah, okay.
Good, good. It's in the air.
Absolutely is. Yeah.
Yep. Other questions for Indy? Comments or anything like that? And I know people answered your question in chat, Indy. They put some of the comments from the
Oh,
Wonder Well.
great. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I look forward to taking a look at all of those. I can't multitask. I'm terrible at that. So I will after though. I definitely will, I promise.
And chat is being saved, so you're good.
Okay, good. Phew, thank you.
Let me just make sure there's no other questions in chat. No? All right. Anything else you want to talk about, Indy, or mention, or?
I think oh, yours is in the orb box. Wonderful. Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, it was great to see people participating in that and putting their messages in there. And there's no way for me to get into that. There's no secret opening or back door or underneath. It's all encapsulated, so it just stays there and is forever into the universe. So
I love that.
Can I ask a question about the technique of the flour and water? Because I always thought paper mache had some glue stuff to it.
some
So,
do. Yeah, some do. But what I learned in Mexico is all you need is flour and water, and you just make it's kind of like the consistency of a very thin pancake batter. And so once you reach
ah,
that and you let it cool off, it can get moldy. Sometimes in Mexico they will add vinegar to prevent the mold, but so some people recommend that, but my teacher's like, don't worry about that. So I just went with how I learned. And yeah, if you don't, you always make a new fresh batch. You don't let it sit for more than a couple days, then then you don't have to worry about it getting moldy or
Bless you.
whatever. So yeah,
oh, thank you.
yeah.
And I love your emphasis and, on like figuring things out. If you don't know how to do it, going to YouTube, Googling,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I mean, I try to instill that in everybody, whether it's professional development stuff, like how to use Instagram but
Yeah,
totally for techniques and
yeah,
learning, new ways of doing art and different ways of doing art. Why not? It's great to experiment and play, and people are
yeah,
sharing stuff all the time, new ways to do
right,
things.
right. It's that sense of play, I think, that is what I really love about it because it's easy as a beginner of something to get frustrated. Oh, I can't do it. And it's like you're just pretend you're five and play.
There you
And
go.
you'll make mistakes. It might turn out like crap, but it doesn't matter because you're playing. And
Yeah.
it's that process. You want to have fun in the process, right? That's to me what it's always been about. I'm a lifelong learner. I have taken so many classes, so many workshops, so many courses. I have a master's degree. I mean, I will just be, learning until I die. And that's for me, perfect. But that sense of curiosity and adventure of like it's hard sometimes to be in that beginner's mind, of like, I'm not going to be good at this. But at the same time, it's so freeing because it doesn't have to be good when you're learning something. So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
That's awesome. So there is a closing reception, August 15th from 2 to 5.
Yes.
Andy will be here.
Yay, I'll be
So,
back. Yay.
yay! So, definitely, if you haven't had a chance to stop by and see the show, come in. I think most of you have, or, a lot of you have. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, come
um,
on, Jarrett. Get over from Toronto.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you everybody that
Yep.
came for the opening reception. It was so wonderful to have everyone there and that support. And I look forward to seeing whoever can make it on the 15th. It's a Saturday afternoon, 2 to 5.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Hopefully it'll be cooler. Fingers
Yes.
crossed. I
Yes.
know. It's cooler now a little bit, so
Yay.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we go?
Just thank you everybody for being here tonight. It was really nice to have conversations with you and answer your questions and see you all here. So yeah, thank you so much. Really
Yeah,
means a
thank
lot.
you, Indy. Thank you. I love artist talks. You just, I mean, you could get deep in, deep in it,
Yeah,
finding
yeah,
out like how things were made, the stories behind them, and it just
yeah,
adds so much. I mean,
yeah.
I know
I
there's a
agree.
lot of artists that are like, no, I'm not going to tell the story. The work speaks for itself. But
Right.
I love hearing the story.
Me too. Me too. I
Yep.
think that we can experience art in both ways, right? I mean, and
Yes,
everything in between. You can just see
exactly.
it and take it for what it makes you feel, or you can learn the artist's story behind it, and then it gives it a whole nother different, and you can have different ideas around it, right? It just, yeah,
Yep,
it makes art so interesting.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
thank you all so
Thanks,
much for being
everybody.
here. And
Very
enjoy
good.
the
I'm
rest
glad
of your
you
evening.
did.
What was that, Dirk?
What was it?
Oh, sorry. Oops. We have noise in the
Oh. All righty, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Bye.
Indy.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thank
Indy.
you. Bye.
Thank you, Christine.
You're
Bye.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Indy. It was
Yes.
fantastic.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye, Dorette.